welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Liana. Today I'm going to be doing another video about palettes that trick you. I did one of these towards the start of the year, I think it was, all about palettes that sort of have a color scheme that is less exciting than what they would have you believe. They just throw in a couple of colors, maybe even only one, and your eye immediately goes to that, and so it's a trick. They trick you into thinking that it's exciting and exhilarating and something new that you haven't seen before, when really it's not. And we're all fooled by this. Maybe it's because that one color is something that we really like, we really want, it's something missing from our collection, and we think that buying this palette will fill that hole, but really when we look at the rest of the palette, we see that it's just not what we thought. And so I'll link that first video that I did down below, and I have quite a few different palettes here to talk about today. And you know, part of it is packaging as well with some of these ones that I'm going to be talking about. It's not just the interior, it's the exterior of the palette that would have you think that the inside is going to be very enticing, and it's actually not. So we'll touch on that a little bit as well. Of course, if you think that these palettes are beautiful, I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong. These are just opinions, and if you disagree with me, then that is just perfectly fine. So I'm just going to start with some e.l.f. palettes. Let me just move over. This is the e.l.f. Modern Metal palette. I believe this is their newest eyeshadow palette in their collection. Now, the only thing that I find really exciting about this palette is on the right hand side they have some more jewel tones. You have sort of like a maroon type purple, you have a nice sort of mustardy yellow, and you have a nice jewel toned blue. You also have kind of like a warmish brown, but anyway. All of the other colors, their metals, are not very exciting. It would have been so nice if they had thrown in some jewel-toned metallic shades. They have a Jewel Pop palette in their collection, and it's all matte. They missed such an amazing opportunity here to throw in jewel-toned metallics. And to call it a modern metal palette and not have any colorful metallic shades is just such a missed opportunity. And so at first glance, when you see those few colors on the ends, it looks quite nice, but you take those away and all you see is some very muted shades. Now, I don't actually know how e.l.f. metallic shades are. Maybe they're not even that pigmented, which would make this palette even worse. I've heard their matte formula is very nice. It's just, this is unfortunate to me because, yeah, they could have made this a lot more colorful, I think, and made it maybe like a companion palette to their Jewel Pop palette. I did think this was pretty when I first saw it, and I mean, it's not ugly, it's just that it's a missed opportunity for sure. This other e.l.f. palette I saw is called the Holy Smokes palette, and there are quite a few palettes that do this. They draw you in with a couple of pops of blue, and the rest of the palette is brown. Now, you do have a couple of shades that aren't brown. They're still just very, very dark and kind of dreary. It is meant to be a smoky palette, so I can't blame it for having smoky tones. But, I mean, they could have added some purples, they could have added some greens. You can still do a smoky palette and have color. And so, I mean, it's nice that they had the blues in there. And this is also a trend that I saw with like an Urban Decay palette, drawing you in with the blues making you think it was very exciting. I'll throw that up on the screen if I can find it and remember what it was called. And if we want to continue with that trend, actually, we have a ColourPop palette called the Mar palette. And while this isn't a very smoky palette, we have 3 shades of blue/turquoise, and all of the surrounding shades are brown. So you can see what I mean. Now, this kind of became a trend to do 1 to 2. This palette has 3 shades of blue, and the rest is not colorful. So they recently came out with an all pink palette, and I think a lot of people are excited for that. They could have done an all blue-green palette, and I think people would have loved that. And yeah, I mean, blue and green go great with shades of brown. Don't get me wrong. I think there's definitely an audience for this, especially if you're trying to get into color. But I think that people would love an all green blue palette. Just look at how people reacted when they saw the Tarte April Fool's palette this year, and how many companies jumped on that idea. Because of the response and how successful these palettes have been. So definitely my eye is immediately drawn to those turquoises and blues, and the rest of the palette is just kind of not my thing. Now, talking about pops of blue again, like I said, it was the trend of the summer. We have the KKW, that's Kim Kardashian West, and Mario palette. We have a single shade of blue in this palette. And I know when this palette came out and it was being sent as PR to influencers on YouTube and Instagram, everybody was doing the exact same look with it, which was to do the sort of brown look on the top of the eye and through the crease, and blue on the lower lash line, because how many ways can you incorporate the blue into your look unless you are very, very into color, in which case you could put that blue all over your lid. But there's not much you can do with this. There aren't many ways you can wear this palette. You could put the blue on your outer corner, you can put it on your lower lash line, or you can put it all over your lid. It's a shimmer, so not a lot of people are going to want to wear it through the crease. And all of the surrounding colors do not give you a lot of options to explore with variety of looks. So this palette would probably draw you in for that one pop of blue. It's a beautiful blue. But what about the rest of the shades? I think a lot of people probably already have those colors. And all of her palettes look like this, except for that blue. Let's talk about Kim's little sister, Kylie. Now, Kylie released very recently a collaboration with, I think it was her best friend or one of her best friends named Jordan. So this is the Kylie Jordan palette. Thank you for including that one purple shade. It's a very nice purple. I'm not sure how it would perform. It's very beautiful purple. You do have what looks to be a fairly bright orange in there as well. I mean, you have 2 pinks that look exactly the same. That's Don't Ever Leave Me and Wild Love. Those 2 look exactly the same. The rest of the shades look to be very, very neutral. A lot of Kylie palettes are neutral with usually a pop or 2 here and there, and that's exactly what this is. This is more of a cool toned neutral palette, except for the orange, and you have a gold. Yeah, thanks for the purple, Kylie. The ColourPop Zodiac palette. This was another collaboration with Kathleen Lights, who I don't support, but anyway. You do have a couple of very nice colors in here. you have the Sagittarius, the Aquarius, and the Pisces, which to me are the brightest in here, or the most unique anyway. If I cover those up, this turns into a fairly basic ColourPop palette again. There's a lot of very basic warm tones and a couple of basic cool tones. There's not a lot to add dimension and color to the look without those 3 shades. Here, if you're really into astrology and you're into zodiac signs and you want to buy this for your zodiac makeup collection, I'm just wondering how disappointed you'd be if you saw that your sign was brown. You know, like you'd probably want your sign to be unique. That's the impression I get from reading so many comments from people saying that, why is my sign this color? We're more special than that. That's just the impression I get. My sign is Cancer, and I have a shimmery, what looks to be pink champagne shade. I mean, that's pretty, but it's also not terribly unique. So this palette as a whole has beautiful packaging and a couple of pretty colors, but there's not a lot there that's horribly special. And I think that people who love astrology are still going to buy this, and they're probably going to be sucked in by the whole zodiac theme and maybe a couple of the colors, and that's it. Oh, I forgot a pop of blue palette. We have the Becca Volcano Goddess palette. Now this is another one that has gorgeous packaging. And we do have a pop of blue in here. It is a very, very, very basic palette that has one dark blue and one pale gray blue. And everything else is, yeah. It's not at all what you would think the palette would be because of its cover. It would have you think that there's going to be some bright yellows, bright reds, bright greens, bright blues, and there's a dark blue and a lighter blue. So Makeup Revolution is coming out with these things called Obsession palettes. And there's 2 in particular. There's one with an influencer, I guess, who is named Belle Jordan. And this one, thank you for that one purple shade. Again, there is one that's slightly oranger, and the rest are brown berries. Brown berries, that's a new term. This looks like it could have been an addition on the Emily Noel palette. These looks like they could be even leftover shades from that palette, you know. Maybe these were shades that she didn't use. Maybe some of these are shades she actually did use under different shade names. This is a beautiful purple shade. Again, you're not going to get a lot of differentiation on your eyes with so many shades that are this close together in depth and tone. And then the other Obsession palette is called the All We Have Now Obsession palette, and this is another pop of blue palette with a lot of warm neutrals. Very pale warm neutrals, so I'm not sure how many skin tones this would work for. A lot of these shades are very light. The blues are very nice. Yeah, a lot of these shades are very light. I don't think this one is a collaboration with anybody. I think this is just Makeup Revolution and their new Obsession line. I don't know what's Obsession, who's Obsession. Can we talk about purple palettes? Purple palettes for a minute. This is the last category of eyeshadow palette that I have, and they're all from Natasha Denona. Let's start with the first purple palette she put out. This is her blue purple palette, the Blurple palette. How many purples do you see? If you're going to put out a blue purple palette, especially when it is, I believe it's over $300 Canadian, half of that palette had better be purple. It's not. Half of that palette had better be blue. It's not. I see 2 bright purples and 3 other purples that could be considered part of the purple family. Blues, I see 4 that I would immediately label purple. The rest are more in the gray family. And how many shades are in this palette? 28. That means 9 shades immediately jump out to me as being purple and blue passing. And the rest are not. That is not great. Then she came out with her Lila palette. I've heard some people call it Lila, I've heard some people call it Lila. This is supposed to be a purple palette. How many purples do you see? Immediately, I would say I see 3 with 1 bright pink. Not necessarily a purple, but a pink. I see a column of ones I would immediately identify as purple from this photo. And now she has the mini Lila palette, supposed to be a companion to her purple palette. How many purples do you see? This only has 5 shades. All of those shades should be purple. I see 1 purple, a blue, a red, and 2 golds. That's not a purple palette. So those are all of the palettes I have to share with you today. Again, I know not all of you will agree with this, but that's fine. So if you have any other palettes you can think of that are more recent or maybe even older palettes that I didn't cover in the first video that you can think of that try to trick people with their packaging, with their shade selection, just leave them down below so we can talk more about them. I post Mondays and Fridays here on this channel in the afternoons Eastern time, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys!